Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 182 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, Emilson, and joining me, we have my co host, Anamali.
Hello.
And this week, we have, there's a few things.
Yeah, a couple, handful, not many, but a few.
Well, first, Fyrak happened like 4 hours after our last episode.
That's true.
Just the absolute classic. We record an episode that the boss dies.
Exactly. That's how it's been the past couple of times. I feel like.
I think that happened for every boss this expansion.
Nice, nice. We're good luck.
Um,
We're good luck charms.
we're good luck charms. I like that. We're good luck charms. Season of Discovery released on Thursday. I think we've both played a bit of that. I think you've played a bit more than I have, but soon
I
I'll get
have.
back on that. And
Nice.
then class tuning. Mistweaver finally paying for all those buffs with some nerfs.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, but we'll get into it. It's not the end of the world. We'll say it hurts, but it's not terrible. So.
Yeah. But before we get into all of that, Anomaly, how was your raid week?
We had a very good raid week, we'll say. We got two new bosses down. We got Naimu, I believe is how you pronounce it, right? Or Nimue.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
Nimue, Nimue, Nimu.
Yeah. Something. That boss got down, first kill, and then went and killed Laradar in the same night, actually. So
Nice.
Tuesday was like our reclear, got Nimue or Naimu, however you say it, pretty low. Didn't get the kill, and got the kill early Thursday, and then spent about probably about 2.5 hours on Laradar, 3 hours on Laradar, which is cool. I mean, both bosses are interesting. Nimue is an awful fight as a melee healer. It is what like
It's just a miserable fight as melee. Honestly, I don't know if it's a great fight for anybody, but it's especially miserable for
oh
melee.
yeah. It was, yeah, just on like watching like stun lines while like also trying to heal, and like you're, at least as a healer, like your eyes are in your raid frames and you have to look up and dodge things, make sure you're soaking the right thing,
Yep.
make sure you're not in the circles after the soak completes.
Yep.
It's a lot. And then like we had a lot of trouble actually, had a lot of weird wipes in terms of like first couple weird ones where we had one of the side ads positioned too close to the back ad, so when it did its AoE, it was killing people in the back,
Oh, the frontal.
which was fun. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because we didn't realize it the first, like it happened I think 3 times before we realized what was happening, because we thought it was like people were just not getting out of the back ads AoE, because that's even very difficult to see,
That's
or their
super
their
difficult
their,
to
their
see. Yeah.
frontals.
Yeah.
um but yeah, no, that was that, so it was fun to find out. And then yeah, we also found out like we had to balance DPS a little bit too on the back ad. Like but only in the third group, which was just like annoying, because like you get all the way to that part of the fight and then they're
Yeah.
like, oh well, then we wipe. So
Yeah.
so that was that. And then Laradar was Laradar was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
I think that's a lot of people's responses to it. I see people recommending now that you actually, if you're going through Mythic Prog now, you actually hit Laradar first
Yeah,
because it got much easier with gear than Nimue did. Nimue, the,
yeah,
the green boss. The green
yeah.
boss did not scale as much with gear. Like you can 5 heal that now, which is what we ended up doing.
Oh,
We
okay,
we got
nice.
Nimue down on Friday. We pulled it last Sunday for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And just like there's a few things going on. There's some like more internal guild stuff that I don't want to talk about here, but there were a few issues. Um, and uh, did not get it last Sunday. Came in and killed it in like 30 minutes yesterday or
Yeah,
Friday,
nice.
and put like 2 pulls into Laradar, uh,
Nice.
and just got the absolute like I'm really bad about this. I got this. I'm fine. Instantly die kind of deal.
Yeah,
Um, and we have the brambles right on Laradar. You have to heal those. They have a ton of health, and our Mistweaver is like, I got this. It's fine.
no.
The brambles were at 95% when the cast finished.
Oh god,
It was
yeah.
very close, and that was our last pull tonight. Um, so basically, what it is they needed to like cocoon it for the healing amp or something.
Yeah.
We also have 2 evokers, so we might be doing some Emerald Communion stuff. um to because like both the druids are both the evokers are playing the blossom build, which doesn't really have it literally doesn't have stasis. They don't take stasis
Yeah.
to talent. So you can't do the big Emerald Communion ramps that people may remember from previous tiers. You just can't put out enough of the. It's like atonements, basically. You can't put out enough atonements to
Hmm.
make it heal the whole raid. But you can put your atonement on the cocoon, or not on the brambles, or on the treants. Actually, is the other place we might use that tech, and then
Gotcha.
make an Emerald Communion and just like top them.
That's nice. Yeah, we ended up running a holy, like our comp was basically disc priest, holy paladin, and then a Mistweaver. And our
That there is a
basically our holy
meta comp.
priest. Yeah, our holy priests essentially soloed the brambles
Yeah,
every time
yeah,
with help from the paladin. And so like my job was only healing the ads. And it was funny, like we our issue was actually the third set of ads was actually not healing it fast enough because it's essentially it's a ton of overlaps. It's ads spawn, you kill them, but 3 seconds after they spawn, then you get the fire drop, so you're moving
right.
as you're trying to kill them, and then immediately after the fire ends, you get a charge.
Yep.
And so like there's not a ton of time to like top them in between that. So I ended up actually saving of like evoke and using evoke just to get those ads topped,
Yeah.
like as we're moving. So I had to do some interesting stuff. But no, we it's funny, the first pull we got to phase 3 with everyone alive, we killed the boss,
Right.
which is like,
I've heard similar
or phase
things.
2, sorry. Yeah, phase 2 it's super easy. Like it's literally like there's not even like the healing is more difficult, I'd say, in the preceding phase. Like phase 2
Yeah.
healing is like you covered like you going into the intermission is a little bit rough, right? So that's a lot of damage. But after that, there's like if you have everybody alive, it's one major damage event and that's it. And
Right. You
like
have the Razageth bomb things, right? The
exactly.
fall off damage
Yeah.
from those. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like that's the only major damage event in that phase. And so then it's just a race against killing the boss before the ads sort of started, the seconds that ads start walking in. So
Yeah.
no, it's a fun fight. We had always the interesting trouble of like people badly positioned. So we had some range doing their own little range stuff and they'd basically plant in the middle as we're trying to get the hose thing going. So like
Yeah.
they'd pick it up and not realize it. So and then we had a little bit of trouble with like because we'd wiped a bunch early, like the third group had like zero practice. So when
Yeah.
we'd get there, it'd be like super frantic for them to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a fun. I mean, I would say it's definitely an easier boss than Nimue. Gear definitely makes particularly P2 almost like free
Yeah.
if you get there with enough people alive. Um, but yeah, Nimue is fun though. Like it's you play a different build as a Mistweaver on it, which is cool.
Is that
So
the ancient teachings one? You're playing
so you
on
don't
that one?
play full ancient teachings. You sort of play like a hybrid, like what Swaggles was doing. Is like you take Phaline and you take, I guess you take ancient teachings, but you don't take like awakened Phaline and all of that
Right.
track
You're not
of the
going
Phaline tree.
fully into like the Mythic Plus build kind of territory. It's been too.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 But you still play AT, and then you still have Yulan on minute Yulan for like covering certain events. So like as a Mistweaver, I saved my evoker. It times pretty well that you can use your evoke in all the intermissions. Because I solo healed basically. We only four healed that, so like I solo healed basically whatever mob I was on.
Yeah.
Us, me and the paladin basically would solo heal, and then our evoker, because we had evoker in for that one, and disc would heal the third area. So it was yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, really good progression. And now we didn't actually get a chance to pull Smolder on. So we start
Yeah.
Smolder on Prague,
I spent
which
some
will be
time
fun.
last night setting up Smolder on weak auras and such. I have not set up let's see healing cooldowns for that since we're reasonably likely to have at least an hour on Smolder on today. Like I should probably
Yeah.
set up like phase 1 Smolder on cooldowns, and I'll probably like overdo it a bit, right? Like Smolder on is a multi-day prog fight. You're not killing it. We're not killing it in an hour, or even if we were really good on Lairdar, like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's just like that would actually I checked that would be the fastest progression time of any public law if we did,
Not too
which
bad. Not too bad.
so basically that means it ain't happening. But I do need to like make sure that we can walk in there and like have healing cooldowns for phase 1 and for the first intermission, the world. So that at least we got something. Like I'm tempted to say healers YOLO it, which we did on like Council of Dreams. But we are also
Nice.
doing the 5 heal duck strat on Council of Dreams, so a little bit different than
Yeah.
Smolderon. Yeah, it's I don't know how people deal with Nimue without like I'm playing Blood DK, right? Blood DK
Yeah.
AMS prevents you from getting stunned by the lines. Death's Advance lets you walk through the knockback flowers without like they don't do any damage or anything. You just get
That's
to so
awesome.
like I put my flowers on top of my flowers.
That's cheating. That's
And
hilarious.
then if you do mess it up and you get stunned anyway, you have Icebound Fortitude that breaks the stun and makes you immune to it for 10 seconds.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And so you just like I just don't like the thing that makes Blood DK really fun. There's two things. It's Death Strike, Go Burr, and
Hmm.
also you have all these buttons that let you ignore mechanics. You get your Death's Advance, you got your AMS, you got your Icebound Fortitude. You got the fact that you're just like built like a brick wall and just like hit Vamp Blood and just stand and stuff. Which is
It's cheating.
like, and then like the flower explosions, like it ended up being easier rather than trying to dodge the flower explosions and like crossing lines while I'm taking double nature damage. It actually ended up being way easier for me to just stand in the flower explosions, know that I was going to take that damage and just death strike
Yeah.
because I
Dude.
knew it wasn't going to kill me. It would do 800k damage, but I got 1.2 million health without vamp blood.
Yeah.
So I just take it, hit death strike, and I'm fine. Rather than like moving through the wall, taking the dot, and then having that dot continue ticking the next time the boss casts on me.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we definitely had our blood DK taking two because you get what, three tank
Yes.
bombs
Yeah.
in
So
a
that's
phase.
we were
So
doing the same thing.
yeah, yeah. Blood DK definitely took two. Our warrior tank would take one, and I'd have to cocoon him for everyone because like
Yeah.
as he's running out,
Yeah.
like
I
he'll
messaged
survive
him
the
after
hit.
our raid on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know how you do this on the Prot Warrior, but if you're gonna do it on the Prot Warrior, you gotta do this middle one. You cannot do two.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. So I think we I had to make sure I cocoon up every time, which was pretty easy. But yeah, it was I don't know. I mean, to be fair, like both fights super fun to progress. I was a fan of both of them. So
I mean, Nimue was
um
not as bad as I was expecting, but it was still
no,
pretty like it's gonna be. It's a fight that I'm going to be glad that you can just like skip most of it with when we're
yeah,
when we're running around and we're like I level 490 and can just
two
like
facing it, right?
just two phase it trivially. Like it's gonna be. I'm gonna be glad that we can.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely I would say right now least favorite fight is the council fight, which is funny. I just don't like council fights, not fun to this day. I think I'm now down on council fights like real bad. So
We managed
um
to get through the council fight without anybody dying to the frontal cleave this time.
oh nice,
I
nice.
got all the frontal cleaving out of the way on a heroic clear where I killed like 10 people.
Just nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, yeah, progression. I guess you have to let me know how Smolder is next week. We hopefully will get to see it. I don't think we're extending just yet, but we are close. I think we probably have like one more
Yeah,
clear, and then yeah,
we've been talking. I think that we're planning to keep re-clearing until they nerf Tintril.
yeah, that's probably a good idea. To be fair, yeah,
Like, especially with how fast re-clear has been for us. Like traditionally, we've kind of been bad at re-clear,
yeah,
and so that's been one of our things to like push us towards extending early because if you spend forever wiping on these early bosses, it does cut into your progression time, and that sucks. But
hmm
we've actually like we cleared heroic in like about an hour. We cleared all the bosses we had already killed. Like the one that we wiped the most on was Volcaros of all things. Like we
nice,
one shot
nice.
that boss on Prague.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then we go in and I just like miss taunt once. My code tank misses a taunt, and then I don't remember what the third wipe was, but we wiped to something.
yeah,
And then killed it. And even still, like 3 wipes on that boss is like 20 minutes total on
yeah.
that
No,
boss, so
it's
it's not
not.
that bad.
Yeah, not a ton of time. Yeah, no,
Um,
yeah. We've been pretty efficient too, which has been nice. So, um,
but yeah, now we've got the heroic skip. Like people were asking, are we gonna take heroic out of main raid? And it's like heroic still drops big upgrades, especially off fire act.
yeah, yeah. Their trinket is still very nice. So yeah, still a decent thing to pull.
So yeah, we're probably not extending for a while. Very different from
That's true.
last year where we like were literally extending on week 4, week 3 to
Yeah,
week 4.
no, I think we the only reason we did heroic the final week was to get the skip, like whatever that, like
Yeah.
that was the only reason we were in there. So yeah. Um,
Yep.
well, cool. Well, yeah, Prague going well. So yeah, we'll have to talk about Smolder on next week. See how we're liking that fight because that seems awful. All right, well, let's get a little bit into the news for this week. So a couple of interviews, a couple of things to touch on, and then we'll get into some of the big news about what happened in retail. So first up is there was an interview with Windows Central was the team that did it, or publication did it, but they interviewed Phil Spencer, who, if you're not familiar with, would be a new name. If you're not, if you're only into WoW stuff or Blizzard stuff, Phil is the CEO of Xbox Gaming. So he runs essentially the entire gaming division at Microsoft. He gave an interview talking a little bit about Blizzard and what their plans are at a very, very high level, really like sort of more visionary type level. But basically touched on a couple of, I think a couple of key things that is interesting. I think the first one is essentially like the idea is that Microsoft wants Blizzard to explore their back catalog, right? Like, so
Hmm.
essentially look at what they've released in the past and potentially rebuild it, like remake it, like bring it up to modern standards. I think that is sort of a really cool thing. I mean, Microsoft did this with recently with Ages of Empires, which is a very well-known
I played
RTS game.
so much of that as a kid.
Dude, AoE 2 was like my jam, man. Like, it was like
Did you?
a high school thing.
All
So,
right. So this is a little off topic, but did you know? So there was the like CD check on Age of Empires, right? That you had to
yep.
have the CD in. It would check it for a valid license in order to start the game. But after that, everything was actually on your
You
hard drive. You
you
could
could take
take
it
the
out.
CD out. So we would do
Yes.
lands, and we only had one copy of Age of Empires, so we installed the same one on every one. And I think we had to
Yep.
do like a registry edit trick to make them, because it also would put like your license code in the registry and compare it when you
Yeah.
tried to land. So we would just change that and use
Yeah.
one CD for all. It was great. It was great. Lot of silly land stuff. And then we found the cheat codes, right? Like the baby brother rocket launcher and the car
Oh yeah.
lasers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fun game. But yeah, but no, Blizzard, I mean, Microsoft brought that game back with like an update out of the blue. Didn't really make a bunch of hoopla about it, a bunch of
Yeah.
announcements, but randomly dropped it. So no, I think it's cool that they're sort of like Phil has been focused on that. They're also really big into like Game Pass and like the model there, which again, very Microsoft centric thing, but essentially like Netflix for games where you pay a monthly subscription fee and get access to a bunch of first party stuff. So we assume that, you know, Bethesda Star Citizen, right? That was the new one from Bethesda,
Yeah.
Star something.
Wait, no.
Um,
Crap. Star Citizen's the other big vaporware game.
oh yeah, no, this was
Starfield. Starfield.
Yes, Starfield.
Yeah.
That was on Game Pass. So if you paid $15 a month, you got to play Starfield on day one. Not the early release day one, but like the actual launch date, of course. But so no, I think it's a really cool service, and it sounds like they're going to bring Blizzard games there. And I think the other thing too is that like um, Blizzard is or Microsoft is very sort of behind like making games more available to more people. So I mean, to be fair, the next major Blizzard drop probably is on Game Pass, right? And so
The real
like
question in my mind is what even would be Blizzard's back catalog at this point, given that their three major franchises all have had like it's I guess
StarCraft.
StarCraft hasn't had a release since 2011, basically. Like,
Yeah.
are they gonna hit us with StarCraft 3? Are they gonna do StarCraft remastered like they did the Diablo 2 remaster?
Yeah, no. Cuz okay, Warcraft Reforged,
Was terrible.
bad. Bad.
It was
I don't
really
know if we
bad.
want to yeah, Wolfbane in chat says Ghost. I mean, that was the other thing about this interview. They said like basically taking, you know, IP and like going in different weird directions, I think is what Microsoft's about. So no, I think it's a really cool interview. I mean, I mean, if you are in gaming news in general, like the interview is very on brand for Phil. Like Phil's very much like Mike Ybarra, like who's the current president of Blizzard, like very much are people who play games, right?
Yeah.
They're people who play games. It's not sort of, you know, the CEO that is just there from a business perspective. So plus it's funny, I think I mentioned this, but Mike Ybarra used to report to Phil like when Mike Ybarra was at Microsoft. So back in the fold reporting to his own boss. So it'd be cool to see what they cook up. So but yeah, no, cool interview. Cool that Phil's sort of all in on the Blizzard support. So and Activision, of course, if you care about modern warfare or something like that. I don't know, whatever Activision has. So cool. So cool interview with Phil. Another thing that came out was so at the beginning of 10.2, basically Blizzard broke a specific like range check function in the game, which a lot of weak auras and even UI add-ons use
Yep.
to denote when like certain things were in range of your players. I believe they reverted um, some of the checks, particularly between player and enemies, right? But there were still restrict range checks between players, essentially player to
Yeah,
player stuff.
that's basically what I don't know if the hotfix for it has gone live yet,
Hmm.
but basically, kind of like friendly nameplates turned out to be a thing, like Star Augur, friendly
Yep.
nameplates. It made it easy to do some of the coordination mechanics. So they turned off add-on ability to modify friendly nameplates, friendly range checking, doing similar things, enemy range checking, kind of important for various things like your action bars. Be able to
Yeah.
tell when you are in range to use your spells. Um, but the friendly ones, I think we're likely to end up with just kind of like the more basic, like, are you within the 40 yards or 25-yard range, whatever kind of deal. And that's the only one you can realistically do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which they, for those that maybe were not playing during Emerald Nightmare, when player positions became protected information in within raid and dungeon settings, um, we used to have a bunch of radar weak auras and add-ons and stuff like that that got removed. Um, this is kind of a continuation of that. Like what people move to is basically you have a list of like toys and other
Yeah.
spells. You just ask the game, okay, this thing has a 1 yard range. Am I in range to use it? Yes or no? Okay, 3 yards. Am I in range? 5 yards. Am I in range? And you just have a list of things with various ranges and use that to figure out how far away you are. So they basically turned off the ability to do that for a bunch of those. Is what
Nice.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a snap. Yeah. And I think too, the other part of it, this does also break a lot of like potentially accessibility add-ons, like
Yeah.
people who have like, who need just the support and things like that in game. So cool they're turning it back on. But yeah, the friendly stuff I think yeah, it is part of the arms race of Blizzard
Yep.
UI customization and Blizzard sort of wanting to restrict that. So
Speaking of the arms race, this is not in the notes, but I just want to briefly bring it up because I think it's extremely funny. Um, like Blizzard and the private auras arms race. I don't know if you've seen, but Liquid had on Pro. I don't know if they had this on Pro actually, but they have in their pack now, and the community kind of rebuilt one. Does the same thing that bypasses the private aura check for the Smolderon orbs.
oh really?
Yeah,
That's the macro one, right?
they weren't using a macro.
Oh, I didn't
And
realize
there's a
that.
macroless one now. There other guilds were using a macro. And like I don't know if they
Interesting.
actually weren't using a macro during the race or not. I know the one currently in the liquid pack does not need a macro. And
Interesting.
basically what it is that these orbs have threat on the person that they're targeting.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's super smart.
So they look for who
That's
they
so
have
smart.
threat on, basically.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, that's the person that's targeted." And so it's just extremely funny to me. Just like all these things, like the Neltharion one was that the boss targeted the people that were getting hit with the thing, even though it was a private debuff. You just looked for the boss, rapidly switching between 3 targets, and that tells you who it's hitting with the mechanic. It's just
Yeah.
like Blizzard learning over and over what a side channel attack is and how hard it is to prevent them is just extremely funny to me.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, that and like it's just every like I feel like every Fyrak debuff
Is a
is a
private aura?
private order. It's just like I
Yeah,
think the dispel is like the only thing that isn't, and it's very annoying because like I like in my raid frames the default private aura like thing that you can put on raid frames is just a big block of like the
yeah,
icon,
yeah.
and so like on certain boss fights like
Like
the
Laradar.
siege Laradar, yeah, the fire dropping. Why is that a private aura?
For one
Why?
thing, it gets applied to
Everyone
literally
get
the
it.
whole raid.
Everyone gets it. Who cares?
It probably was like originally not going to be applied to the whole raid and they didn't want you to assign it, so they made it private and then they made it go on the whole raid and
Oh my god.
never unprivated it.
It's so annoying, dude. That was like the biggest thing our healers were talking about was like, how do we turn off this debuff? And I'm like, I'm not
You literally
investigating
have
it.
to like turn off private auras for that
Yeah.
fight, basically. It's
Yeah. It's
eh,
annoying. But
yeah,
I'm sorry. Um,
it's dumb.
but yeah, I guess that'll be the new thing going into next expansion. Just everything's a private aura. So but cool. So that's So range checking, hopefully between enemies and players will be, if it's not already hot fixed, then it should be soon. And yeah, I guess the other sort of moving on, the other big news this week outside of retail was Season of Discovery launched. So if you're not familiar with this is sort of the new twist on WoW Classic that was announced at BlizzCon. Essentially, it's a shorter level range, so it's only level 1 to 25. And every class gets new abilities through these things called runes. And basically, you can engrave a rune onto a specific armor slot. It's gloves, pants, or chest. And the
It's
runes give you new
gloves, helm, or
abilities.
chest. Helm or chest.
No,
Pretty sure.
it's legs. It's legs.
Is it
It's
legs?
legs. It's legs and chest. Yeah, because you don't get a helm till very much till later. It's gloves. It's gloves, legs, and chest.
Oh,
1,000%. Because I just went through this with my mage. I was doing this right before the
okay. Yeah.
podcast.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah. I was like, I could swear that like when I did we did the beta BFD
Yeah.
thing at BlizzCon, I could swear it was Helm, but maybe they
Oh,
changed
cool.
it. Maybe I'm just bad at remembering things.
That's true. That's true. You could, yeah, they could have changed it, but no, it was gloves. It's gloves, legs, and chest. And so
Okay.
these runes give you new abilities. Like mages get the ability to have like fingers of frost or living bomb, things that weren't in original classic.
Yeah.
They also did some weird stuff where like shamans can fully tank now through the use of runes.
Yep.
I did a run an RFC last night with a shaman tank that could not pull threat off them as best I tried. And so I think rogues have a tank spec now, warlocks have a tank spec now,
Yep.
mages have a healing spec.
Yep.
So and the runes themselves are hidden in the world. I mean, if you care, Wowhead, I think has guides for pretty much how to find all of them. But even knowing the guide, it's like interesting what they did. Like, I'll do a little bit of a spoiler here if you care. But for an early mage rune, around Trisfald Glades, there's these weird pumpkins that if you polymorph them, a person comes out and drops a scroll, and you collect 6 of these scrolls to get a rune.
That's cool.
So it's like weird stuff like that. Or there was like, yeah, so I won't ruin any other of them, but there's
Yeah.
like new things out in the world that you can do
Yeah.
that
Like
drop runes,
I'm
which is
running on.
cool.
I made a rogue. My rogue's like level 8 or 9 at this point.
Hmm.
And I've been running around and I've been pickpocketing everything because I'm like, I heard some people talking about scrolls. So I'm like, you know what would be a neat way for rogues to get scrolls or something, bits of whatever to put together a rune? Pickpocketing.
Pickpocket, yeah.
So I'm
That's,
pickpocketing everything I can.
that is awesome. That is awesome. But yeah, I've been having a blast. I think it's funny too. The weird thing about this is so I have this is how I know that WoW might be like Blizzard might be onto something here. Is I have a buddy who we played original Warcraft up until he quit right around like right before Cataclysm, essentially. So Wrath, like the
Yeah,
original three. Um, and to this day, he calls WoW both the best and worst game he's ever played.
yeah,
Best in terms of like losing essentially like what 4 years of your life to the game, 5 years of
yeah.
your life through Wrath, and worst in that he always makes fun of me for still playing it. He has come back to play Season of Discovery because he's like it is different enough and it's only 25 levels that it's like he's like if I hate it, it's just I lose like a weekend or I lose like a week of messing
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Like I still
It's
get to see some new stuff.
it's
So
also like one of the things that excites me about this. And I don't think I properly expressed this the last time we talked about Season of Discovery, but one of the
yeah.
things that excites me about this is Blizzard creating low level content, leveling content that's intended to be like a thing for people to go back and do and
Oh
just
yeah.
like run around and play in the world, right? And that's been the thing that Blizzard has struggled with for a long time. Like you can see elements of them trying to do this in Dragonflight, and I think with mixed success. Like world
Hmm.
quests and world events obviously kind of do it, but you done one super bloom, you've done all the super blooms, right?
Exactly.
You've done
Yeah.
one feast, you've done basically all the feasts.
Hmm.
There's not like they help, they add things, but it's not the same as content that is designed for you to be playing and leveling through it slowly, right?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
it to be
Exactly.
the thing that for it to be your goal instead of a thing that you have on your way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny too because a lot of the like, because I'm actually playing with a group of friends that typically aren't big WoW people, um, but have played in the past. And it's like we did Ragefire Chasm last night, and so we were going around to collect the quests, and there's like 2 in Thunderbluff, 1 in Undercity, and 1 right outside
Yeah.
the instance. And I remember having to like run to Thunderbluff to turn it in, and just like some like the joke is basically like, this is the best version of WoW. This is the best game. I'm like, yeah, I love having to run 30 minutes out of my way to turn in a level 15 quest that like isn't gonna matter. But of course, like Thunderbluff has quests to like send you to
Yeah,
Orgrimmar, Ragefire. So it's
it's
just funny the way some of those quests. Like I think one of my buddies was doing a quest in like from the Barrens that sent him to Tristfold Glades, but it just sent them to the Sepulchre, and then
yeah,
turned around and had to fly all the way back. And like it was for like 1,000 experience or something, like nothing
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So
There's a lot of those that are not worth doing.
yeah, exactly. But no, it's been fun. I mean, I'm a huge fan of this stuff, and um I think it's cool that basically you have 3 versions of WoW. To be fair, like almost 4 versions of WoW you can like potentially get yourself into. You know, get your
Yeah.
hardcore, season of discovery, Wrath classic, and retail. So and then like regular classic still out there. I don't know how popular that is, but I
Oh,
mean,
it's super
I'm
popular.
assuming,
Right.
yeah, I'm assuming people are
Oh
still
wait,
playing regular classic
no.
too.
Vanilla Classic, not so popular. Not gonna.
Yeah,
Not. Wrath Classic, super popular.
yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Um, but cool. Now I've been having a blast with it, so I'm excited to do more. And yeah, I think Wolfman in chat mentions it only go to 25 for this phase.
right.
They'll increase it a bunch more phases coming up. But the cool thing is that the previous phase leveling is sped up. So
Is
like
it?
essentially,
I
yeah.
didn't
So
know
what
they were
they
doing that.
said this
Okay.
in, I think it was in the deep dive, but they talked about it where like the idea is like 1 to 25 is open now. When 40, I think, is the next map
Right.
opens up. 1 to 25 gets accelerated experience,
Oh, that's
and then you
cool.
go back to normal rates at 25 to get yourself to 40 or
That's really
whatever.
cool. I like that.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that a lot. That's so like I wanted to play more season of Discovery this weekend, but
Hmm.
my main for raid is still running around with a fucking world quest weapon and an agility pole arm. It's a blood decay, by
Nice.
the way. Uh, this normal eye level agility pole arm seems better than the other weapons that I have access to right now. I am 31 keys deep and have not seen a two-handed weapon yet.
That's
So
rough. That's rough.
yeah, that's fun. Um, but yeah,
It's been, I would say it has been a lot of fun, even just like hanging out and talking to people. So
yeah,
um but cool. All right, moving on a little bit. There was a bunch of 10.2 PTR news that hit. I think the two at least biggest ones for me were number one, when 10.2 drops, Revival Catalyst becomes a weekly charge rather than a every other
bi-weekly.
week charge,
Yeah,
bi-weekly charge, which was good for all catch up. What is it, like transmog stuff you might want to get.
yeah.
So that's nice. But then the other thing they're doing is they're updating the visuals of almost all of the Shadowlands. Shadowlands anima power. What are they called? Like
Covenant
covenant
abilities.
abilities.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah, all the Shadowlands covenant abilities. So like for warlock, or sorry, not a warlock in retail. For monk, Phaline Stomp gets an updated visual. And so it goes from sort of the blue
Night
like
Fae kind of
wispy night
effect.
fae type of thing to like a very green
It looks like a
serpenty.
snake.
It looks, so I don't know if you can pull up a video. I think it
I'm gonna
looks,
try.
you need to see it in action, because like the actual visual on the floor, like the still image of it, it looks okay. It looks
Yeah,
less intricate, but the visual of it looks so good. Like the like in action looks so cool. Um,
I did
but
not
yeah,
know. Sorry, here. I think I got one.
yeah.
So here we go. We got. Is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is what this looks like. They're gonna use. Here we go. Look at that. So this
Oh, dude,
is
it looks so good.
for people listening to this. Obviously, we're showing a video. Um, but what this looks like is basically like you're getting snake, I don't know, runes on the ground, and
Yeah.
they kind of rush forward, rush outward, and form this pattern on the ground. It. All right, this is a pun. It invokes Yu'lon in a very effective way.
Yeah.
Um, it's neat. It's good. I'm glad they're updating the visuals on these rather than leaving us with the old
Oh yeah.
old Shadowlands visuals forever. There's also a Weapons of Order one, but I have actually not even looked at what it is.
I haven't seen it. Well, yeah, Mistweaver doesn't get access to it, so I
Yeah.
haven't seen it. But no, yeah, it's really it's really cool they're going back to do it. I think the monk one looks honestly amazing. So yeah, it's super cool. Huge fan of all the updates they're doing. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so that's on 10.2. So more little tidbits of stuff coming out. I think what we're talking about 10.2 probably hitting January-ish at this point. I don't think we get it.
10.25. Yeah.
10.25, sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
I think, and then there's also, so the next phase of Season of Discovery, we have, I don't know if it's official confirmation at this point, but the next raid is No More Again. And we have Black Fathom Deeps, it's the current level 25 raid for Season of Discovery. No More Again is inaccessible. You can't zone in.
yeah.
So that is basically confirmed to be the next raid.
Oh, dude, level 40 in Nomer. Oh.
And if you've not done that instance in Classic, that place is huge.
Oh, it's massive. It's so yeah. I mean, it is the quintessential to me. Like, there's a couple dungeons in Classic WoW that are to me are like we're gonna do this dungeon and it is an all night experience. It is a
Yeah.
4 hour like we're going on a journey. We might only kill 2 or 3 bosses, but it is gonna be fun. And like
Yeah.
Nomer's like that. I think
Like
Blackrock
Ubers.
Depths. Well, I mean, Ubers I think ended up being a little bit more straightforward, but Depths was always
Yeah.
an
Okay.
experience,
Yeah.
right? Because Depths I think had like 15 bosses or something. Well,
Yeah.
upper and yeah,
I
and then
mean, it
you
was
had
kind of
upper
all
and
one
lower.
big thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, all stacked on top of each other. So yeah, but no, Nomer was always a cool one. Maraudon I think is another one. That was not a launch dungeon. It came later, but
It was also big. Yeah.
yeah, and they had the purple side. They had 2 different entrances to the same place. You had
Yeah.
purple and orange, like so. But yeah, I think Nomer as a raid will be so cool. I did get a chance to watch a little bit of the current raid. There's some interesting like new mechanics there. Nothing too crazy. Like it's not
It's still very
retail
much a
levels of
classic
complexity.
raid. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, some cool new stuff you don't typically see in classic or sorry in classic raids or with BFD. So yeah, I'm excited for Nomer being the next, at least maybe not officially just yet, but the data mined or like the rumored next raid. So keep me interested. I'll at least play. The other thing too, I guess I know we're sort of not a classic podcast, but the other thing I did watch a couple of interviews. I didn't put it in there, but one other note here before we get into the main topic was they did talk about the fact that like these are not the only runes we're getting. So like the idea is
Yep.
like in some cases, like because they talk about like well rogues as a tank like they're very much like does not seem like a finished class, and essentially they allude to the fact that like well maybe we designed a full rogue tanking spec that works at 60 but like only kind of works at the lower levels, right? Like works just enough to get you by.
It also
So
works well. Like to be clear, it does work well enough for Black Fathom Deeps. There are not that many full clears of it because a lot of people are still leveling, but
yeah.
there's enough. Like there's a number of people that I've seen that have rogue tanked it.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
some degree.
So but yeah, there's it definitely seems like the rune system seems like there's gonna be more runes to find every phase, which will be fun. Um so cool. All right, well on to some main topics today. I think the big one is the race is done or has been done for about a week now, as we said at the start here. Like they killed or Echo won. They killed Fyrak basically like yeah, mid afternoon or late afternoon US time
They killed it
last Sunday.
like 30 minutes before my raid.
Yeah. So congrats, hats off to Echo. I think they did they played from behind most of the race and came back right there at the end. I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast last week, but I know I said this was like anytime you get into a fight where you essentially have to play perfectly to kill it. Like I think Echo and so the longer you sit at that boss, I think Echo just has for whatever reason a leg up on Liquid. Right? I think Liquid maybe
Uh-oh. We lose him. Rip Anomaly.
that night. I think they got it around 1 a.m. ish Eastern time.
Oh, he's
Um,
back.
oh, sorry, did I lose connection?
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know where I dropped off, but that was weird. I don't. The internet seems fine.
Good. It's good. We're all good. But yeah,
Yeah.
you were saying Liquid got it at like 1 o'clock.
Yeah, they got it about 1 a.m. I think Eastern. So, um, but yeah, no. So I mean, race is over. Firac looks absolutely wild. I cannot wait till they nerf the hell out of that boss because like,
I think Firac, like, I think the big thing that looks really ass to me about Firac is the Aflame debuffs, where
yeah,
how many of them spawn and they nerfed Mass Dispel. It's almost like, uh, so Echo had like 12 dwarves in the raid,
yeah,
and just like we're stone forming it. Like if it went on a dwarf and they had stone form, they used stone form on it, and that's the only way they were able to get enough dispels because you can't just bring like, well, for one thing, you can't bring 3 Mistweavers, and also you can't wait for enough people to get the debuff that revival is useful
oh yeah,
in most
yeah,
cases, because like 4 or 5 stacks of the debuff is lethal.
yeah,
So you just have to be dispelling it. So you can't
yeah.
wait for 10 people to get it and push revival. You have to dispel them sooner.
Well, that too, and it's such a like, as a healer, phase two is going to be the most annoying because you have to manage dispelling debuffs, healing the raid, and then healing mobs that don't have frames. You're essentially
Yep.
healing like friendly nameplates, right? Um, so no, I think yeah, the dispels, I think maybe they make a change there. And then the seeds in the final phase, I think too, are just like the whole idea of like a single misstep, like just it just seems like like some of the
It's
plays that
wondrous.
yeah, but I mean some of the plays those guys were making where it's like I think it was Gingy who like dropped a seed, had blaze on him. He was one of the middle blazes that went off. Somebody else got blaze, it was on his seed. He literally the half second his blaze went off, picked up the seed, blinked, and then the blaze went off right behind him. And like it's
Yeah.
literally like in a set, he had like a literally less than a second to react to what was happening. It's like no offense to my players in my raid, we're not doing that. Like we're
Yeah.
just that is a wipe,
Yeah.
1,000% a wipe for
Absolutely.
us.
Same thing.
So yeah, so I think maybe we see some changes to that like final phase, just like the maybe it's the overlaps and like ability timings. They look at that because yeah, I mean the blazes are like very quick in and out, and it's yeah, you don't have a
Yeah.
lot of time to react. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it looked. I mean, Liquid had some heartbreaking low percentage wipes. I mean, Echo did
Yeah.
too. I think they were both sub like 3% at one point. Um, and then yeah, Echo gets it. So um,
Yeah. They
but
had a
yeah,
point where they were both about 1.5%.
yeah,
And it's just it's crazy. It
yeah.
is crazy. Um yeah, it's so it was Echo, then Liquid, and then Method got it before the reset, right? Method got it.
I don't know. I put it in the notes. I forget.
I'm
So
pulling it
I
up.
think I already closed it.
They
Uh,
got it. No, they got it
no, they got it after reset.
Thursday
Yeah,
or Wednesday.
pretty sure Echoes
They
or
got it.
sorry, yeah, Method was after reset. So.
Method got it Friday.
But still, Method third. I mean, not in the conversation I think just yet for top two, but
They were kind of most of a week behind
yeah,
the top two.
but still a very strong showing from them. So I mean, they did. Uh, I think they did. I think it's good to shout out Method and the rebuild that they've done. I think seems like they're back in the at least the hunt for a top five spot all the time now. So
Yeah.
um, cool. And then so then the other thing that occurs when, of course, I think hopefully this isn't the new trend, but at least the past couple bosses has been the trend is a legendary item drop. So you get to go and do some quests and crafts. So Echo killing it first, I think they guarantee the drop maybe on Mythic, or at least maybe the first Mythic
The
kill.
first one I think was guaranteed per region.
Yeah,
That's how it worked for the Evoker Legendary in Aberrus.
gotcha.
The differences here, there's two main differences. One, we have bad luck protection from day one, and that bad luck protection drops. Like you actually get an item that you click.
Yeah,
I don't know if it just doesn't do anything and it's just like a visual representation of the thing, or if it actually is behind it. Like imagine like collecting these in your bags and never clicking them. Does that mean you don't get your bad luck protection?
yeah, that's true. That would be. I hope it's like that so that people get. Yeah, just use the item. It just goes away.
Um,
Oh,
But so there's greater and lesser embers. You kill Fyrak, you get a greater ember. You get lesser embers from other bosses at random. You can get little bonuses basically.
Hmm.
And so that's you're stacking a bad luck protection axe. The other change is that on Mythic, it apparently is a low percentage drop group loot,
Okay.
which means you could assign it out once you're farming Mythic. Um, one of the other things that means is that you could sell it.
Oh, very interesting. That's true. That's
Um,
true.
I don't know if that's intended or not. I think one of the things they probably heard is that people were frustrated. Like people were farming Mythic Sarkareth and frustrated that their evokers didn't get the legendary. And I think we've lost Anomaly again. But people were frustrated that their evokers didn't get the legendary. Like we killed Sarkareth, 12 something times. 13, 14. Actually, we gotta wait for Anomaly. How many times did we kill Mythic? We killed Mythic Sarkareth 12 times. And our evokers, like, didn't get the legendary until
Jeez.
basically the end of the tier. And it's like, if that is the problem that they're trying to solve, is that like CE guilds are complaining that their raiders can't get the legendary, and like ours are like, what's the point in even trying to parse because I don't have the legendary, I'm 5% behind.
Yeah.
Um, and when you're going for the top end of parses, you need it. I don't think this actually solves that unless it's like a really high chance to drop Fearlath, but it will mean that people will try and buy it for a chance at the X.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. Um, yeah, but we'll see. I think all of our warriors and paladins and things got the items this week, so we did not see it on our heroic kill. So it is it is what it is there. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think Fyrak. I mean, I guess the axe seems pretty good. I think people were kind of memeing the fact that you have to kill like 1,000 super bloom rares after killing the hardest mythic boss in the world. You then go and
Do
sit
world
in
sit in the
yeah,
super
do
bloom.
world quests. Yeah,
It's
essentially.
basically the
Um,
way it's supposed to work from what I understand is that you're supposed to like use these items on other people and then you get stuff from them when they kill super bloom things. And
okay.
so that's how it's supposed to be how it is. But it's still a much longer grind than the like Fyrak assaults were for the Evoker Legendary, even if you do that correctly and don't use the item on yourself like Miraz did on stream.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, so that is sort of the legendary axe is out. Fyrak is dead. One of the longer progressions almost went
Yeah.
the full 2 weeks. So, um, but no, I mean, good on Echo and Liquid. They're done for till next expansion basically. So they get a year off of the grind, we'll say.
Yeah.
But cool. I know we have about 10 minutes left. So we have a couple of other kind of quick things, some tuning updates that have either already gone live this week or will be going live coming up here. So a couple of maybe we'll start in Mythic Plus. So just essentially a couple of changes in a few dungeons. Most notably, Rise received a handful of nerfs to number one, the timer. You gain an extra minute on the timer, which is still fairly tight, we'll say. Um, Tier lost about 14% health, which essentially almost guarantees you can or do like one shield phase, I think, in most groups, even at a 20, I think. I don't think we got more than two. At least on Fortified, I think Tyrannical probably a little bit
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Um, Time Lost Battlefield, that boss, the arrows and axes damage was reduced, which is awesome because
Yeah.
archers were awful.
I'm playing from a very privileged position here where I'm playing a Death Knight. So
Yeah,
those were never a problem because you just grip it into the boss and it gets instantly cleaved and killed. Right.
yeah, yeah. If you
And
don't play with a good Death Knight, these things
yeah.
will kill you.
And then they also on Chronoloord Deus, they nerfed the tank frontal, which is huge. Like huge damage.
Yeah, oh, dude, we went in there 2 week. What was it last week
On
on
the Tyrannical week.
with a
Yeah.
warrior tank,
Oh
and
yeah.
Rise is banned from being tanked by a warrior with me. It was.
Yeah.
We killed the timer. We were like, I think we had like 9 minutes or 10 minutes, and ended up being like 10 minutes over just from
Yeah.
the wipes. It was yeah,
Yeah.
it was rough. So no, that's a good change for sure.
They also nerfed it so the orbs mechanic where like the first orb falls and when it lands it gives you a debuff that increases the damage taken for the next one. So you're supposed to stand in one, let one fall. They nerfed the damage increase on the second one from 250% to 75%, which actually
Hmm.
means that in the rise that I was doing that made this podcast late today, uh, when my group in this pug did not do the orbs and just let them both fall, it didn't instantly one shot the group.
That is
It
awesome.
killed one person, and then the others lived at like 10% health. And then they
That's
did the
hilarious.
orb mechanic for the rest of the fight correctly.
Nice, nice. Um, they did then too also make a couple of changes in Everbloom to the. It's typically the second boss you do, the council boss there.
Yeah,
Basically the poison stuff from the main guy essentially is reduced. So the charge damage is reduced along with the discharge, which is the
the
puddles on the
puddle.
ground.
Yeah,
Um, both those were reduced, and then the charge itself I think takes longer to travel. Like the boss takes longer to jump.
yeah.
Um, about a half second longer. So a couple of nerfs there to those bosses. So
They
um,
also Blackbird Cold, very freaky.
oh
The
yeah,
last boss
I
on
noticed.
Tyrannical was a little bit rough. So in phase one, Latosius does shadow bolts at random players, and they got a slam. And they also had the damage variance. So you could have the damage on that basically go up or down 2 key levels just randomly.
Love variants. That was a thing that was a very because Black Rock Hole was a Legion dungeon, right?
Yeah,
Like variance was such a thing. It's still in the game.
yeah,
I mean, in different cases, but like healing, for example, has a level of variance added to it, and it's always annoying to make sure you get formulas right for that.
right.
But yeah, no, it's God, that's so funny. To remove the 15% variance, it's awesome. So
Yeah, so they did that. There's a few other Mythic Plus changes. They're mostly just bug fixes, or actually, there's a number of like fixing unintended interactions, some of which have been around since the original time the dungeons were here, like in Waycrest Manor. You could, for this week, pre shapeshift the soul thorns on the tree boss. And what it would do is if you were in your shapeshift form, not Boomkin, that one doesn't count. The other shapeshift forms, when the soul thorns was going to be applied to you, it just wouldn't.
mhm.
You couldn't shapeshift out of it, but you could pre-immune it. That doesn't work anymore. They fixed that. There's a few other things like that that they fixed. I don't have a list handy actually.
So the other big one too is they remove the line of sight requirement from the chart or from the jump
Oh
from
yeah,
that from the Everbloom boss too.
yeah,
So you used to be able to line of sight around if your tank line of sighted around a corner or around a tree that was in the arena or near the
yeah,
arena. The boss wouldn't cast a charge. I mean, there wouldn't be puddles on the ground, which essentially meant if you ran melee, they could just literally stay on whatever boss and cleave it. It was really,
yeah.
really nice. But yeah, they made that change there.
Just don't run Everbloom with melee, honestly.
That is true. That is true. Um, so yeah, so that was I think a couple other changes. They did make a couple of item changes too, I guess. So the Blossom of Amildrasil, which is the trinket from Fyrak, got increased by 10% its effect. Um, the what is it, Bellarelos, which is the caster trinket, I believe,
Tindril, yeah.
from Tindril. The self damage of that was increased. That trinket's already busted. Um, so the
Well,
self damage is increased. So.
yeah, the self damage right now from a heroic win is like 300k.
Hmm.
This puts it at like almost 400k, which
Yep.
is that's like half your health, but it's a 12-second dot. It's honestly not that threat.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Uh, it,
Um,
it was very funny when the data mining of this came out though, and the Wowhead post just said Belorelos damage increased by 20%, and people in
yeah,
my like were rating when this comes out, right? And people in my raid just lose their fucking minds over the best trinket getting buffed by 20%
yeah, yeah,
before the
yeah, yeah.
correction comes out that it's the self damage effect of Belorelos that uh, had the damage increase applied.
Yeah, no, that was yeah. I think we saw the same thing because this came out like on a Friday. Yeah, so I was a bunch of my people in my guild were like going nuts in Discord. So, um, but yeah, so it's sort of the era. With World First being done, we're gonna see a bunch of tuning changes, and so we also did see not only item changes but a ton of class changes. So across the board, I think every class was at least touched, not every spec, but every class was hit with something, including Mistweavers. So Mistweaver, I think, got the primary monk changes. So just go through these just fairly quickly. So first up is Manatee now reduces the mana cost of spells by 25%. It was 50%. So this is definitely a nerf. It's a nerf though, particularly at the high end, I'll say. I
Yeah,
don't think like from what we've seen log wise and people asking questions, a lot of people don't actually make the best use of this reduction, right? Which is effectively like the ability to reduce a specific spell or a specific group of spells by 50%. So it was
yeah.
a lot of
It's kind of a curve too, right? Oh, we lost anomaly again. So basically, what happens with this is that at the low end, people don't really get the mana benefit from Manatee. You're not really making great use of it. You're just using it for mana regeneration. You're not worrying about the mana savings from having the cost reduction. And then kind of at the mid level, you're maybe getting more value from it. But then at the top level, you're getting Innervate, and you don't need the Manatee. You just get two Innervates, and it's fine. So in some ways, this is like a little bit of a miss of a nerf, in my opinion, because if you just have two druids that innervate your Mistweaver, right? You can innervate every Yulon, and then they don't have to work. Like this is
yeah.
yeah
Yeah. So a little bit of a top end, I'll say nerf more than anything, but I think it'll impact people. It won't be as big of impact as people think.
yeah
They also now changed the upwelling stacks to go to 15, which we talked about. This just makes it in line with the change they made to the number of bolts that Essence Font actually sends.
yeah.
They also decreased the healing of Essence Font by 10% and the healing of Invigorating
Okay,
Mist by 10%.
I actually
So
wanted to ask: does this essence font nerf apply to the essence font bolts from Phalanx Stomp?
yes, it will.
Okay,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so typically those bolts are coded as essence font in terms of the healing. They're not a separate bolt
gotcha.
spell ID if I remember correctly. So
So that was my one question because I was like, everybody praises the death of like Essence Font. Nobody wants to be pushing Essence Font basically.
mhm.
But if it also nerfs Phalanx Stomp, people are much happier to be pushing Phalanx Stomp.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean essence font in raid is still a good ability to use, particularly if you right now a lot of builds run outwelling and you just thunder focus T hit it
yeah.
with a manatee tick and it's fine healing. They also decreased invigorating mist healing by 10%. So invigorating mist is
That's the cleave, right?
the cleave healing from Vivify, right? So on your renewing mist targets, that's the new spell ID for that. They've nerfed that healing by 10%.
A little bit of a
And they've
compensation, skipping ahead a little bit. Vivify
yeah,
primary target healing got increased by 5%.
yeah, yeah. So a little bit of a main target buff there. And then the one that is probably makes out of all these, probably the biggest one, is Common Coalescence now increases the absorb of Life Cocoon by 2%. It was 3%. So this was the spell where it will stack up to 50, but every tick of Soothing Mist you do grants you a stack of this, and each stack increases, in this case, the absorb of Life Cocoon by 2%. So Life Cocoon at a 50 stacked Common Coalescence is like ridiculously powerful.
Yeah,
And the fun thing is if you run the statue, Elon statue, those Soothing Mist ticks also increase Common Coalescence. So essentially you can tap, you can always keep a basically every 8 seconds getting 8 more stacks essentially by tapping tapping Soothing Mist on someone.
hmm.
Um, and then the only final change, which is I don't think a huge one, but Ancient Concordance now increases the chance for Blackout Kick to reset Rising Sun Kick by 12%. It was 10%. So a slight
That's a
buff there.
buff, right? Yeah,
Yeah, slight buff there. I mean, it's to be fair, like if you need a Phalanx Stomp reset, or sorry, no, this is a RSK reset. So yeah,
yeah,
this is a buff in terms of like getting more RSK damage out. Sorry, I thought this
yeah.
Phalanx Stomp reset. Um,
Um, and then the only other monk change, and I have not consulted the Windwalker people about this one, but I'm pretty sure I don't need to. All ability damage increased by 6%. I believe this is going to increase their damage by about 6%. But Could be
But six
wrong on
percent
that.
but if you talk to
There's
Windwalker,
trinkets and
six
stuff,
percent of
right?
zero. Well, 6% of zero is
Yeah, that's
still
true.
zero. So
Yeah, yeah,
no, a little bit of a buff there for them.
yeah.
Which is always good. So the only other thing, I know we're just about out of time here, is Blizzard after this post did put on another blue post that essentially said we're gonna make more changes. I think is that like
We got the second round of these, didn't we? I feel like we got the
uh
second round.
I think that I don't think there was anything additional other for the December 5th ones coming up. I didn't, unless I missed it in the notes. Other than like essentially um after December 5th, we can expect more
Okay.
changes.
Okay.
Was sort of what they were talking about. So yeah, so I think the idea is like they held any changes till after race for world first, as always, class
Yeah.
wise, and then yeah,
I think we
they'll
got that
throw more
backwards
and more.
actually. We got this
Oh,
backwards in the notes. The more class tuning post is posted before the class tuning post.
oh,
Because there
whoops.
was the other class tuning that happened with reset, there were some buffs.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
and so yeah, this is the one where BM Hunter got a 5% AoE nerf. I don't know if you've run with a good BM Hunter in keys, but holy crap. Like our DPS, the DPS in my guild are just like they just want the BM Hunters to stop taking all the damage. There's only a
Yeah,
finite. You do a dungeon pull. There's a finite amount of damage to be done, and the BM Hunter just takes the whole thing.
yeah. That is true. They do a lot of damage. That is true. So um but cool. I think that's everything for this week. I think we ran the gambit on it. So
I think that's
so
it. Just running a little bit late on both ends because I made the foolhardy decision of trying to pug Murazon's Rise 30 minutes before the podcast, and that key did not take 30 minutes.
can't do it. Can't cut it that close.
Yep. So yeah, that's going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to support it and the other work that we do over on the Peak of Serenity, you can do that over on our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. It is the best place. Come and learn about how many innervates you should actually be getting on all of these mythic fights and where best to use them. You're a Mistweaver.
Mm-hmm.
And also to figure out how in the hell you do Nimue as a brewmaster. I can't tell you that one
Yeah.
because I cheated and I did it on the blood decay, but there's some good tips going on about how to do things with, like, if you're in the there's some transcendence tech with like escape from reality and stuff like that for that fight. That's
Nice.
good stuff going on there. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the show today. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.